Okay, this is the last video, I think. And step one in the last video, you can see we've got all this wonderful color stuff going on in here and here. And part of what makes those blues sing is this little bit of sand color here. So let's look at it right here and right here. This is very, very gray, and yet it feels warmer than everything around it, because it is. This one's got a little more of I hate to use the word yellow. Let's call it raw sienna, but it's majorly gray. My thinking on this, my plan, which I haven't done yet, but my plan is I have white ink here, and that I'm going to use white ink in the mixture. So I'm going to start out putting a tiny bit of raw sienna over here. Into the mixture. And you will remember that what happens with, it's a dam there, stop that. That what happens with the white ink is it looks much lighter than it is after it dries. Just like your walls do when you buy that, when you paint those. So, it looks like just the right color going on, and then when it dries, your walls are too dark. Have you ever had that happen? All right, so I need some gray to add to that, I think. And you can just mix up something with burnt umber and a blue. You know, just whatever. Let's see, I've got something right there. That ought to work. Put a little of that in. Well, this still looks too light. So, what I've got to do with this, you know, I like to just dive in and paint, but sometimes you need to test. So here's what we're going to do. You take a nice big size of that. Of course, this is not thick paint, but it's sort of in between. It's sort of in the creamy realm. And we're going to let that dry. As you can see it getting darker. Even as it just sits here right now, it's getting darker. So I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to come back and look at it with the little holes over it. Now, who would have thought that this would turn into that? See, it can be very tricky. So now let's take these little holes and let's compare and see what we've got. Let's look right there. Oh my, this is actually still lighter. I am really surprised. And so for over here, it's way lighter, but I knew that. But I thought, when I looked at that, next to that, I thought I had a match. I thought I had an exact match. But this is next surrounded by white, and this is surrounded by darks. So I'm going to put a little more gray into it. And here's the other problem. The other problem is it's really hard to tell what you've got here. And so if I try to mix color to exactly match that, I may be off some. So it's best to go ahead and mix the amount that I need to use, which I did not do. Mix the amount that I need to use. See, I'm picking up some color out here that's kind of thick. So what I did was I dipped down into my supply a little bit. Some of you may already have it thick at the top, in which case you need to add water. That should have a little water floating on the surface, because this zinc just dries itself. All right, so now I'm going to try to recreate that, only a little darker. So what I am saying is, whoa, that you need to experiment with your color. Once you've got the puddle that you think is right. I mean, you need to have enough paint there and test it. Okay, let's get some more of the gray. I've just got stuff over here. It doesn't matter. You can use like a little ultramarine and burn umber, something like that, or indigo and burn umber. It's something like this. See, that still looks super light, doesn't it? That looks closer to the color that I have right here. All right, I'm going to do another test, because my temptation is just to go with it, but I'm trying to show y'all what would be the really right thing to do. I'm trying to be a good example. Okay, so we're going to let that dry. Boy, it starts changing even as it's sitting there. I'm going to paint it right up next to this other one, just so I can compare them. Well, that still wasn't good enough, so I added more. Okay, and here we go. That's pretty close. I don't know if I can hold that down. You have to hold these down flat so they don't make a shadow. Pretty close. Okay. Now, the problem is we're going to do basically a wet and wet treatment, and we want to keep some of these areas pretty clean. Okay, let's see how we're going to do that. I have some fairly strong ultramarine here, and then I have my ultramarine phthalo green mixture, which is, it makes something sort of like, some of you might own phthalo turquoise, for instance, something along those lines. But this is compatible with what we were using in the rest of the painting. So I'm going to try a little wet and wet treatment right here. Hope I don't use up all my color. Let's just see if I got something like this down in some area, like that. That's sand. And then I came in with, I don't want to thin that out. I want this to be kind of strong. I came in with something like this. Now, what's it going to do when it gets down here to the sand? I don't know. And then maybe I'll pick up a little ultramarine. See, because that ultramarine next to that turquoise, that does a nice thing there. Okay, maybe here. You know, you could leave that little ditty right there if you wanted. Okay, I think my mixtures are going to flow about right. That's part of what I want to see is, do I have that too thick or these too thin? What are they going to do? I think that'll be pretty nice. Okay, let's go for it. Oh, I don't have the painting out here yet. Okay, here we go. Let's see, does everything show? No, need that up like this. Okay, I guess I had that a little crooked. Here. All right, this area up in here's got a lot of whites with a little bit of color in between. I think I'll do that separately later, but I did not mask that area. So I'm coming just left of this rock, right in here, and I'm going to pick up my sand. And so I'm trying to lay in, you know, again, not thick, but it's not a thin, runny layer either. Okay, so let's do that. And then let's come in with some turquoise, because there's an area over here. And it's going to, see, we're hitting wet and wet. So we're going to have this nice soft edge here. And then we're going to wash that brush out. I've got clean water here, by the way. And we're going to pick up our ultramarine while this is still wet. and let it blend in right there. I think I could use a little more turquoise in that. And then down here, oh my, down here there's actually, oh, that's a different situation. There's more to this than I thought. Okay, we'll come back to, I'm thinking out loud, okay, and I'm thinking out loud a little too much. We're going to need some dark reflections in here too eventually. So let's pick up a little ultramarine there. But I'll just paint the little bits of dark reflection on top of the color. And then we need a little bit more sand over here. I wonder if my color's starting to dry there. Okay, let's run that into this other color. Might need to wipe off my brush now so I don't contaminate my sand. Okay, there's a little of that going on. Comes up into here, and then we're hitting the masking, which we'll have to pull that up before we finish this, of course. So right here, this area is turquoise right there. And you know, you don't have to get it just like this. Goodness knows I'm not going to. If you do better than me, don't tell me. I'm supposed to be in charge here. Haha. So, I'll get lighter there as I get close up to the masking. You know what? I'll pull this. I've left some gaps in my masking intentionally. And I should have a little bit of color in those areas before the masking comes up. That was part of the deal. Okay, let's pick up a little more ultramarine and we'll streak it around a little bit. And sometimes you get these like little fuzzy things and they don't look too much like water, so you might want to stroke through those. And, whoops, then right here we're running into a little bit of sand again, but it's very, very dark sand. So I'm going to take some of my blue and pull in over it. And I'm probably going to have to add more darks to that when we get the masking up. Then we'll know what we need. That looks a little too artificial. However, it's not bad looking. Let's see, I'm going to soften that edge right there. It's the white ink makes some of this mixture easier to work with or into, however you do it. That's not near dark enough. You know what? I think we're going to have to use some indigo. So I should have tested this first too. Let's get some indigo here. And see, here's my indigo. I've got it kind of strong. Let's just see. If I'm going to use this, I've got to use it into wet paint. Or I've got to layer it. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to layer it. So we'll ignore that I already put some in like that. Okay, we've got this going on. That was the really hard part. Here's some more sand right here. You know, you don't have to do everything that's in the picture, but... So see, I may layer a little indigo on top of some of this sand to make it go darker. Like I have right here. Let's see how it looks with the rest of the picture. You know, it's a little bit unbelievable. But on the other hand, it's not too ugly either. Let's take a little of the blue and a little of the turquoise and put a little bit in over here. Got to keep this really, really pale. Remember, I have a lot of skips around with my masking, but right in here I don't have masking. So I'm just sort of making up some little bits of water showing through the foam. Okay, that's going to have more work. Over here, we've got this really nice shadow. And, you know, there's a little bit of sand showing through. See these areas as you get in closer to us? And I don't have that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to streak in some little bits of sand. I'll have to see what this looks like dried again. I'm going to break it up some, see, with some water. I might leave some areas solid and some areas a little broken up. Just remember that a lot of this won't necessarily dry the way you anticipate that it will. I would use, well, less rather than more. And right in here, a little sandy color too. There's just none of that's as intense of a blue as it is back in the back. And see, as you do that, that brings you in closer. So again, here where I've got water painted between some of these spots, I'm also going to pull some sand color into that. Remember, it shows up a lot when it's wet, and then not so much. But it should dull this a little bit. So we'll have to see what it looks like. Here's the thing, if I decide I've got too much on there, it just so happens that this white will probably wash off a little bit for me. Maybe. I've got a place there I'd like to cover up. I'll just put a little there. Okay, remember that's going to be darker. Now, right down here in this shadow, it's kind of the blue with the blue-green. It's about equal parts. And it's very light. I didn't put that rock in, but I might change my mind and add it. So this, yeah, should go up in here. And this is supposed to, you know, this is a shadow on the foam. So I don't know whether my division is going to be convincing or not. I may have to add to it later. Ooh, that looks kind of strong, doesn't it? Yeah, that's definitely going to have some work when that's dry. This bright blue edge there is too much. If you did that, I would say something to you. So I'm going to pick up a little more sand color. And see if I can weaken that with the sand color. If not, you know what I really need to do? What I really need to do is take my brush first and see if I can pull up a little extra color there first. Now I've got it all mixed in with the sand stuff. That's interesting. So a little bit more stuff streaked in there. Okay, we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to pull up the masking, and then we're going to figure out what it needs. This is taking longer than I anticipated. This is Scene 6. It's long enough that I'm going to, as soon as this uploads, I'm going to do another little video right in behind it. So you won't have to wait very long for the last one. Bye.